Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode here in NHL 24. So in last episode, we simulated the rest of the 2007-08 regular season, and we have made the playoffs with a 39-27, 11-5 record, so not the best record on paper to make the playoffs, but it was an interesting season to say the least. We'd had some pretty good stats from, I would say, our top six. However, after the top six, it definitely started to dwindle quite a bit. You can see the plus minuses on the top six were very, very good. You get to the bottom six, on the other hand, if we go just to forwards, you can see our bottom six, which was comprised of guys like Comrie, Lacoste, Pavelski. These guys were all in the minus department, so I am a little bit weary about our defensive play in that bottom six. Hopefully it's better in the playoffs. If it's not, obviously, we can make some adjustments, but that was the main cause of defensive struggles, because our defensive core was all plus as well, which is kind of surprising. So the only real problem we had was our bottom six play. And now another problem we had in last episode is Marcus Sedin got injured once again, and he will not be returning until probably a conference finals appearance if we get there. He had a really good season, but his injuries obviously cut his season short a little bit. So we are going to be having to rely on Marshall Brust and also Jimmy Howard for the playoffs. We will likely start Brust for game one, but he obviously will be on a short leash. Jimmy Howard was really good in the 4 games that he played, so there is a chance that Jimmy Howard might be the guy for us in this playoff run as well. So will be exciting to see what ends up happening. I'm excited to see if Van Allen can continue what he's been doing as of late, because he's been fantastic, as he's become like the #1 goal scoring guy on our team. Like, he's definitely outperformed Marita these last few years, which was not something I had in mind. Like, I thought Marita would start scoring a lot more goals. Well, Van Allen has turned out to be the better goal scorer of the two. So very excited to see what ends up happening in this playoff run. This is probably our last chance at a playoff, at a Stanley Cup, because from the looks of it, this episode obviously is going up currently on the 19th. The next episode will be on the 23rd, technically. And then since my Jet series is basically coming to an end, I probably will have, the next episode of this Nashville series, if we make it to the conference finals, for instance, that will be on the 24th. And it will probably still try and get out an episode a day before NHL 25 drops, potentially. If I have early access and I'm allowed to post a video a day earlier than NHL 25's release, then I might not. So we'll see what ends up happening in terms of that. So I might have to go through these playoff series, multiple of them in each episode, to just kind of wrap this series up. But since our Winnipeg series decided to end a little bit early, we could basically replace the Winnipeg episode from next week with Nashville's instead. But anyway, we are going to be taking on the Dallas Stars in the first round of the playoffs. They had a kind of a similar record to us, as you can see, 38, 32, 10, and 2, but they are 7-3 in their last 10 games going into the playoffs. So I am a little bit worried that we could be a first round exit yet again, which hopefully is not the case, because like I said, we don't really have enough time to almost do another full season of this franchise mode. So hopefully we're able to get at least out of the first round and maybe out of the second round, so that way we could at least extend the series all the way till the end of NHL 24's life expectancy. But like I was saying, Dallas is kind of an interesting team. They have some pretty good players on their roster, but other players not so much. Definitely a lot different than they were back in the early stages of this franchise mode. But you can see they have a good amount of young players. They have like Zach Parise. Curtis Brown's one of the veteran players on the team. They also have Blake Cizikas, Martin Lapointe's a veteran, Rich Peverley is a younger guy. Like, they have a good mix of young players and also a couple vets in the lineup to kind of basically be those leadership type of role players. So they have a very good forward core for the most part. The fourth line center's a little bit weak. I would say their center depth is kind of weak, but it's not terribly weak, because having Alex Dagg as a third line center is not really that bad of an option. And then from a defensive standpoint, you can see they have some pretty good defensemen, but also some kind of like average ones. They have a bunch of young kind of guys, and they also have some veterans. Ego Kapanen is currently playing defense. The reason is because Dion Phaneuf's currently injured. So once Dion Phaneuf is back, that defensive core gets a little bit younger, and also then they actually have somebody in a normal position, because Nico Kapanen's not really a defensive guy by any stretch, so it's kind of weird that they're using him as a defenseman. And then their goaltending is not bad either. It's a veteran goaltending tandem of Lalim and Abisher, so I don't really know who of these two goalies we're going to face frequently. Like, they could easily change goalies every single playoff game against us, so going to be interesting to definitely see who gets to the next round. I hope it's us, obviously us, because obviously, like I said, we don't have a lot of time left in the series before it ends, and this could be our last chance to at least see our team win a Stanley Cup. And then Marita, Van Allen, all those guys will get lost in the nether, so to speak. And there is a chance that at least maybe down the road or something like that, like in years to come, if I wanted to go back to just take a look at my old franchise modes, maybe we'd come back to this franchise mode and maybe we'll just sim like another season or so of it just for fun in a random video. If I wanted to do something different for when I hit 10 years on YouTube, maybe we want to do something where we go back to our old franchise modes and simulate a little bit more, because Winnipeg still has a couple more years left. That might be an idea that we could do if we really want to. But anyways, let's get in your guys' comments now, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into this first round matchup with the Dallas Stars. So the first comment is from Michael Dost, who says the plus minus of your forwards on the lines 3 and 4 just did not look great this season. And yeah, I'm a little bit weary about that bottom 6 for sure. Obviously, if for some reason they're not playing good in the playoffs as well defensively, we could easily make some adjustments, because we do have currently guys like Thomas Kopecky who could potentially come in, Chuck Kobasu, and I think we probably even have some guys in the AHL that could come up. Yeah, like Andre Kostitsyn's pretty much ready to go. He is more of an offensive player though. We have Jay McClement that could help us out defensively. This young Hakkarainen guy who could come up. He's a very good shooter, so maybe not the best for the forward line. Nicholas is ready pretty much too. So we do have a lot of options if we want to call up some other guys. Travis Moen for that matter, if we want to get some grit, or John Scott. Defensively, we could make some adjustments if we need to as well, but I don't think there's much to do. Mark Giordano is probably the only guy I would be maybe willing to call up. And then from a goalie perspective, there's not really anybody. So we got to hope that our backup goalie and Jimmy Howard could get it done up until the return of Sedin if we want to go far in this playoff run. But I also got to hope that this bottom 6 just figures itself out completely in terms of defense, because they were good offensively. I'd say they're okay with the offensive stats, but the defensive play was just not there. And then the top 6 was fantastic, so that's why their plus minus was so good. And the last and final comment is from Simon Taku, says, should the bottom 6 continue to be dreadful after the first playoff game, you might want to shuffle some of the players around. The first round should be a good one. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go a full 7 games. And yeah, I think the first round definitely could go 7 games based on the fact we had similar seasons to the Dallas Stars. And obviously we're both kind of younger teams in a sense with some veteran players. So will be interesting to definitely see what ends up happening in that first round matchup. And like he was saying as well, with the bottom 6, we could shuffle it around if people are underperforming. For instance, Art Meyer could go up when it could go down. Bork could go up. Calmery can maybe get scratched at some point. Who knows really what could happen with this bottom 6, but we could definitely reorganize it if we want to make it better. And then from a defensive standpoint, I don't really know which pairing we want to reorganize if they get bad. But this Seabrook-Jacques pairing, I believe, based on those stats, yeah, they weren't really good last year in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that they're a little bit better this time around, because if they aren't, maybe we do not want those guys together. So maybe we'd move Seabrook up. Trevor Daley could play with Jacques instead. But we could definitely reorganize everything to make it hopefully a little bit better in terms of the defensive play. But anyways, let's get to this first round matchup, see if we could beat Dallas. It's 07-08, so technically if we do not find a way to win the Stanley Cup this year, hopefully we at least get a Pittsburgh-Detroit Stanley Cup Finals, because that would just be a nice little cherry on top, because I like it when there's realistic results in terms of the simulation, but at the same time, obviously, I want to win the Stanley Cup myself too. So let's see what happens. Game number 1, we have home ice advantage. We are starting our backup goalie, Brust. Like I said, if he's not very good in game 1, we might go to Jimmy Howard for game 2, and also reorganize our bottom 6, just like Zaron Otaku was mentioning. So first period, game number 1. 3-1 us. Well, that's a great start. Wow, okay. That's a really good start. So Rene Bourque scores the first goal of the playoffs for us early on. 10 minutes later, Art Meyer scores his first career playoff goal. So we're already getting goals from our bottom 6, which is really nice to see, because that's a fourth liner. Actually, 2 fourth line goals, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because I think Art Meyer's the fourth line, right? And then that's Dustin Brown. Yeah, I was going to say, who's D. Brown? I was thinking of Doug Brown, but he's already retired by this stage, I think. Dustin Brown opens the scoring for Dallas, and then Jason Spezza gets us the goal to make it 3-1. So very good start for our offense, and it's good to see, like I said, the bottom 6 scoring goals early, because that means their plus minuses will be good as well going forward. Shots are 10-8 in favor of us. It's a 3-1 game. Can we make sure this game doesn't get out of hand all of a sudden? I don't want to win 9-1 necessarily in game 1, because then you might not score a single goal again. But I do want to have like a good period where we just don't give up any goals. Maybe we get 1 or 2 more goals. But let's just keep this safe if possible. Second period. 5-2. Okay, that's good. That's good. Jacques scores his first goal of the playoffs. Made it 4-1. Crombeen scores for them to make it 4-2. And then Scott Hartnell will make it a 5-2 game. Shots are 21-17 in favor of us. We're up by 3 goals. Let's just lock this down defensively, and then that will be a really solid first game. Seabrook makes it 6-2. Artmeyer scores his second of the night to make it 7-2. Okay, what's with Artmeyer in his first career playoff game? Is he going to find a way to get a hat trick in his first career playoff game? Marita scores, so there's the Karate Kid on the board. Makes it 8-2. Wow. Okay, well, I wasn't expecting to score 8 goals in game 1. But here we are. So very good start from our team in terms of offense. And also good start in terms of defense. We did just give up a late goal from Dustin Brown again. But we win by a score of 8-3. That's a really solid first game. 8 goals on 33 shots. We give up 3 on 28. So not the best effort from Brust, I would say. But I would say that's definitely what we want to see from our roster. So Bork from Artmeyer and Lacosta, Artmeyer from Weber, Spezza from Van Allen and Marita, Jacques from Legwand, Hartnell from Nagy and Weber, Seabrook from Nagy and Brust. So Marshall Brust picked up an assist, which is even awesomer. So even though he wasn't necessarily the best in net, he did pick up a point. And then Artmeyer from Bork and Lacosta, Marita from Spezza and Van Allen, and that was that. That's a really nice way to start off the series for sure. Like Artmeyer having 3 points in his first career playoff game is fantastic. You can see the plus minuses across the board as well. Looking really, really good. A couple minus players, those being Winnick and Comrie. So once again, that third line. But I wouldn't say that's a huge issue. Pavelski was a -3 though, actually. So maybe that third line is still playing like shit. That's crazy. How do you go -3, Joe Pavelski? Little Joe is having definitely a tough time in these with this Nashville Predators team. That's insane. We scored 8 goals, and yet he was still a -3. Wow. Yeah, so that third line needs definitely some work. We are going to keep it the same for game number 2, but obviously it will be on a short leash, and it will get adjusted at some point. Like Artmeyer could easily go up when it could go down if we want to. So Artmeyer first star of the game, Spezza the second star, and Rene Bork the third star. Not too bad. But I don't know how Pavelski was a -3 in that game. Like, that's pretty much probably the story of our regular season as well. Like, we had great offense numbers in the top 6, but that third line, just for somewhat reason, they just are always out there for goals against. Like, I guess some line has to be technically, but it's just, they're always the outlier problem is that third line. Like, that fourth line could be a problem too at times, but they had a really good first game, so maybe they're actually finding themselves in this playoffs. But that third line needs to find itself a lot more, it seems like. Especially Pavelski, I would say, at the moment. Okay, so that was a good first game, I would say, for the most part. Let's just keep the team the same for game 2. If we lose this one, obviously we can make some adjustments if guys like Pavelski are -3 again or something like that. So let's see if we could get another good offensive effort and if we could play better in net a little bit in this next game. We did play good defensively, I would say, though. First period of game 2. 1-1, I'll start that off on a good foot. I don't know what I was just trying to say there. Alex Dagg makes it 1-0 Dallas, so they actually scored first in this one. Alex Dagg's actually been pretty good against us so far. David Legwand, a power play goal, though, to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Shots are 14-9 in favor of us. It's a 1-1 game after the first period. Can we get the lead? Because we have not had the lead yet in this game. Second period. It is 3-2 us. Okay. Our offense has been playing pretty good. We haven't been able to contain their offense fully, I would say, but for the most part, we're doing good. Nagy makes it 2-1. Dustin Brown scores his third goal of the series, so Dustin Brown's definitely been the best player on Dallas right now, I would say, at this point in time to tie it up. And then Hayden Van Allen with 32 seconds left gives us back that lead, so that's a solid second period. Shots 24-19 in favor of us. Let's get some insurance and lock down this game 2 as well if we possibly can. It's been a really good start to this first round, I would say, for the most part for this team. Nagy scores again. Let's go, Vladislav. Former Dallas star in real life, but obviously in this timeline never played for Dallas. Jason Spezza, future Dallas star, probably never in this timeline, makes it 5-2. Final few minutes. Can we lock this one down? But it looks like another solid offensive effort. Scott Hartnell makes it 6-2. Final few minutes. And we get a short-handed goal from Marita with 48 seconds left. We win 7-2 in game 2. We have scored now 15 goals in the first 2 games of the series, and we've given up a total of 5. Outrageous. Really good performance from the team again in terms of offense. That's exactly what you like to see. And also great defense in that game too, I'd say. Leg 1 from Nagy and Comrie, Nagy from Leg 1 and Suter, Van Allen from Spezza and Suter, Nagy from Hartnell, Spezza from Marita and Seabrook, Hartnell from Leg 1 and Nagy, and then you had Marita from Seabrook and Comrie. So it seems like the second line did a lot of work in that game, and that is the case. Nagy finished with 4 points, Leg 1 with 3, and Scott Hartnell had 2, and a bunch of other players had 2 points as well. You had guys like Ryan Suter being at +4, which is fantastic, and yeah, that's a great game for our team again. We did have a couple minus guys again, those being the pairing of Daly and Corzini, and then the fourth line was minus in that game. So the fourth line had a little bit of a rougher time than game 1. Shout out to Shea Weber, though, being a +5. That is amazing. 3 stars of the game, Nagy, Leg 1, and Hartnell. How good of a game did Brust have? I didn't even see. A 938. That's really good. That is really good. So far, our goaltending has been good in this playoffs. Maybe it's just because Sedin's been out. If Sedin was in, maybe we'd be doing worse. Honestly, have no idea. But we are tripling them up in scoring. 15-5 after 2 games is outrageous. I don't expect our offense to maintain us for the entire first round, but if it does, we might be in for a good playoff run this year, finally. So Detroit's up 2-0 currently. Is Pittsburgh up on their series? No, they're tied up 1. Because I want to see if those 2 teams at least kind of make it far in this series, in this 2007-08 season, because that would be kind of neat still. All right, I think we got to keep the team the exact same. Defense, I would say, has been good. 2.5 goals against per game, and then we've been scoring a shit ton of goals a game, so I have really no problems so far for the most part. Only kind of that the bottom 6 has been minus in a couple of these games, but I think for the most part, it's been good. That third line definitely, though, needs to figure itself out in terms of defense. It was really bad in game 1, and game 2, I guess it was a little bit more even, but still. We didn't concede as much goals, I guess. Game 3, we are now heading to the American Airlines Center in Dallas. Let's see if we could find a way to win on the road as well, just like we did on home ice. Or is Dallas going to find a way to win games on their home ice? First period, game 3. 2-2. Jeez, we're scoring so much goals, but we do give up 2 goals in the first period for the first time. As Curtis Brown, there's too much Browns that played in the NHL. Curtis Brown opens the scoring. Trevor Daly, the future Dallas Star, actually at this point he would have been playing for the Dallas Stars, but obviously not in this timeline. Hayden Van Allen made it 2-1 for us, but then Cizikas gets on the board for the Dallas Stars. Shots are 11-9 in favor of us. It's a 2-2 game, so not the best goaltending effort from Brust in that first period, but at least it's a tie game. Can we find a way to get that lead back in the second period? 3-3. Okay, I'll take it. Spezza scores a power play goal with 9:38 left, and then Dustin Brown scores again. Yeah, Dustin Brown's actually been really, really good. Like, they don't have a lot of goals against us in the series. Like, now that's a total of 8 goals. Dustin Brown has exactly half of those goals for the Dallas Stars, which is kind of insane. Shots are 22-14 in favor of us. So, yeah, Bruss is having a pretty tough time in this game. So we got to definitely help him out defensively if we can and find a way to get that lead back, because we've had the lead multiple times in this game up to this point in time. Let's see what happens in period number 3. See if we can get that lead. Penalty kill to start the third. We killed it off. Nicely done. Do we have any goals for ourselves here in the third period? We've had a lot of good offense so far in the series. It would be nice to score another goal. Penalty kill, and Zach Parise has given Dallas their first lead in a while, since the first period, I guess. Do we have an answer to that? Come on, boys. Final few minutes of this third period, and we are unfortunately going to lose by 1 goal by a score of 4-3. Now this is a series. It's a 2-1 series lead only for us, and not a great effort from Brust in that one. That's where I'm thinking about maybe putting Jimmy and Howard in for a game, but I'm not too sure yet. So Trevor Daly from LaCosta and Artmeyer, Van Allen from Marita and Spezza from Nagy. Got to look at the plus-minuses in that game just to see who was bad in that one. Weber and Suter had a tough time. That's kind of surprising. And then the second line was probably the worst, but Winnick and Pavelski were minus again. And yeah, Brust definitely had his worst game in the playoffs. I think we're going to reorganize the bottom 6 a bit. And I think I might take Brust out. I'm not too sure, though. Because Brust is obviously not used to starting so many games consecutively. But we will maybe make some adjustments here, even though we're up in the series. Better to make some adjustments than not. So yeah, we'll probably put Winnick on the fourth line. He's been pretty bad, to be honest. Artmeyer's actually been really good. Pavelski's been pretty bad defensively, -4 through 3 games. Lacosta's a +2, so we'll move Lacosta up, Pavelski down. And we'll probably keep Rene Bourque on the fourth line just because of the overall rating. And then from a defensive standpoint, let me take a look at these plus minuses. That second pairing's had a bit of a tough time, it looks like. So we will swap Daly and Suter. So that way Suter's playing with Gorzini, Weber's playing with Daly. And then Seabrook and Jacques could stay together. And yeah, Bruss has actually had a pretty tough time to start the series. You know, we're up 2-1. He's got an 891. So we will give an opportunity to Jimmy Howard for Game 4. See if he could do well. But this team should hopefully be better with those line adjustments because Artmeyer and Lacosta have been good plus-minus. They've had good points. Now they're playing with a good player like Comrie, who's good offensively, not so much defensively. And then those liabilities in Pavelski and Winnick will get to play with Rene Bourque, who's been okay defensively so far to start the playoffs and has also been decent on the score sheet too. So, like I said, we could make some adjustments and call people up if we need to, or we could put some people that are scratched like Chuck Kobasu into the lineup if we want to as well. Anyways, that's what we're going to do for Game 4. See if that helps us out defensively, because if it does, that would be nice. Because we had I'd say our first 2 games were okay defensively. Goaltending was a little bit iffy in the first game. Second game, it was better. Third game, it was not great. So we need better goaltending for sure. Defensively, I would say we've still been okay in this playoff run so far. We've allowed 9 goals in 3 games. So it's like 3 goals against per game, which isn't really that bad. We have been scoring good amounts still. We're scoring 18 goals in 3 games. Most of those in the first 2 games, of course. So obviously our offense was a little bit quiet by comparison in Game 3, but hopefully it finds itself in Game 4. And like I said, hopefully we find our defensive identity in this game as well. So here you go, Game 4 in Dallas. Do we have a response? Because losing by 1 goal, it could be a ball buster of a game the last game. So hopefully we can find a way to take a 3-1 series lead here. First period of Game 4. And scoreless, I'll take it. Good defensive period, shots 14-9 in favor of us. So we had a lot of chances to score, but we have not scored so far. So our offense is definitely not as good as the first 2 games so far, but at least it's been getting its chances. It should be able to break through in the second period based on the shot advantage, but you never know. This goalie that they have could be hot out of nowhere. And our goaltending so far has been good from Jimmy Howard through 1. Hopefully he keeps that up because this is his first career playoff start. Let's see if we can find a way to get that lead in the second period. Second period. 2-2. Okay, well, I'll take it. I mean, we did have a 2-0 lead. Van Allen scored shorthanded. Korzini made it 2-0. But then, unfortunately, we kind of fell off a little bit as Langenbrunner scored and Karambin scored with 2 minutes left. So, despite having that 2-0 lead, we kind of fell off a little bit. We are still out shooting him 27-20, which is good. But I do not like that we blew a 2-0 lead. We need better defense and goaltending if we want to win this game. Because 2 goals against on 20 shots isn't great, I would say. But obviously, it's not terrible by any stretch considering we're still in this game. So, at least we're not trailing. Let's see if we could find a way to get that lead back in the third period. Come on, boys. Third period underway. Who wants to be the guy to give us that lead back? 5-on-3 penalty kill, and we killed it off. Nicely done, penalty killers. I like to see that. Shows that our defensive identity might be coming through. Who knows? Hey, Scott Hartnell gives us our first lead since that second period blown lead that we've had. Final few minutes. Hey, and Scott Hartnell, the empty net as well. And we win 4-2. That's a huge win in Dallas. And we are 1 win away from the second round. Final shots 36-30 in favor of us. So that was a pretty solid game from Jimmy Howard. Good third period. Definitely locking that one down. So Van Allen's third from Korzini and Comrie. Korzini from Marita and Comrie. So Comrie picking up some points, which is nice to see. Same with Korzini. Then we had Hartnell from Nagy and Legwand, and Hartnell from Nagy and Korzini. So Korzini with a 3-point game. Love to see it. The Korzini. You gotta always say it like that. So Korzini 3 points, Nagy, Hartnell, Comrie all 2 points. Couple guys on 1 point. Any minus people? Pavelski again, Bourque, and Jacques this time. So Pavelski getting moved to the fourth line. Really didn't help him at all in terms of plus minus. I'm almost debating about scratching Pavelski. He's been that bad. Jimmy Howard was really good in that game, so he might actually get a 3-star of the game. Yeah, he gets 3rd star. Korzini 2nd star, and Hartnell the first star with those 2 goals in that third period. Huh. I don't know what to do about Pavelski. Because and Pavelski is, in real life, like before he retired, he was probably one of the most underrated players, I would say, of this decade. But in this franchise mode, in this universe, he doesn't seem to develop really well. And his defensive play is always such lackluster. Like, he's lost his abilities. He's a -6 through 4 games somehow, and our team has been able to score so many goals. Like, you look at everybody else's plus-minus. The next worst plus-minus on the offensive core is Winnick, who's only a -2. So, I am definitely not too happy with Pavelski. The question is, who would I put in for him? Probably Kopecky. I don't like Kopeski's face-offs really that much, though. Is anybody here actually good at face-offs? No. Man. Trying to think. I could put Comrie always to center, and Lacoste could go down to the 4th line. And then we take Pavelski out of the lineup completely. Yeah, I think Lil Joe's got to get taken out of the lineup for Thomas Kopecky. He's just been a complete liability. Maybe this will be a nice little learning thing for him, but he has been atrocious. -8 during a regular season isn't terrible, but playoffs being -6 through 4 games. And he's a career -14 through 17 playoff games with only a goal to show for it. So he hasn't brought any offense in the playoffs, and his defense has just been terrible too. So, yeah, Lil Joe, take a seat. You might be back next round, but for right now, I don't think you need to be in the lineup. I hate scratching a guy like that, but it makes more sense than you would think at this point. Oh well, okay, we have a 3-1 series lead, looking to close out this series against Dallas. We have scored a total now of 22 goals in 4 games. So the offense has been fantastic, yet somehow Joe Pavelski was -6. Like, I don't understand it. Our goaltending has been pretty good. We've been giving up around 2 to 3 goals per game, which is not really that bad either. So I've been happy with most players other than Pavelski, I would say, at the moment. I could start Jimmy Howard again, but maybe I'll go back to Brust again. Maybe Brust needed just a little bit of a break. Obviously, if Brust loses again, we could go back to Jimmy Howard again if we really want to. So let's keep the team the same for the most part. Let's go to Game 5 and see if we could close out the Dallas Stars on home ice and get ourselves to round number 2. Come on, boys, you got this. First period of this next game, Game 5, and it's 1-0 Dallas after 1. They scored literally 14 seconds in. That's not great. They are out shooting us 12-7, so you knew they would come to play considering fighting off elimination or trying to. And yeah, that makes sense why we're losing after 1. It's only 1-0, so we are definitely still in this game. It would be nice to see us have an answer in the second period if possible. Second period? 3-1 us. Let's go. That's a period to see. Spezza, Artmeyer, and Nagy. Artmeyer's been probably the surprise of the series, I would say, for the most part. He's been really good in his first ever playoff run. Spezza was pretty good in the series as well. Nagy's been fantastic. So those guys came to play in this game as well. Shots are 24-21 in favor of us now. So we definitely outplayed them in that second period. Now, can we close them out and get ourselves to round 2? Let's see what happens in this third period. Come on, boys. Parise makes it a 3-2 game. Not ideal. We are still up by 1 goal, though. Can we get any insurance? Just so I feel a little bit more safe going forward. And, of course, Dion Phaneuf came back from injury, and he scores in his first game back, but Brent Seabrook answers right back for us. Let's go, Brent. That's a huge goal from Seabrook. Final few minutes. Your Nashville Predators are not going to the second round yet. Oh, my goodness. Are you kidding me? Okay, that's why you never talk too early. I was going to say your Nashville Predators are going to round 2, and then Brunstrom tied. I'm like, okay, well, it's going to overtime. And then Rich Peverly scores with 16 seconds left. And we are going to a Game 6 just because of that little collapse by Brust. Holy shit, man. Wow. Even without Pavelski in the lineup, we had a bit of a bad defensive game, huh? We blew a 3-1 lead. Spezza from Lacoste and Jacques Artmeyer from Suter and Bork. Nagy from Legwand and Hartnell. Then they get those 2 goals. Of course, Phaneuf has to score in his first game back, potentially. Then it looked like Seabrook had the game winner from Comrie, but then those 2 goals in the final minute. I don't know why we just gave that up. That makes me think that we're going to lose in 7 games now. Just because that's one of the worst blown leads I've seen in a while. Only a couple minus guys, and it was Bork, Van Allen, and Daly. So not terrible, the plus-minus department. Trevor Daly only played 3 minutes that game. He might have got injured, which is not what we want to see. And in Brust, yeah, it was terrible. So we're going to definitely going back to Jimmy Howard for the next game. For sure. But the question is Trevor Daley healthy? Or was he just nicked up? He's just nicked up, okay. It was just a day-to-day injury. And of course, Pavelski's not too happy about being scratched, but he's honestly would have been worse. Like, we probably would have lost by a lot more in that last game. But yeah, the fact that we just lost that when we should have won it, I literally think we're going to lose in 7 games now because of that. Like, I feel a little bit worried about that. We definitely need to figure out the goaltending a little bit here. Brust has, yeah, been pretty bad. So we're definitely going to Jimmy Howard for up until he loses, basically. And let me take a look at the plus minuses here. Plus minuses are fine still. Defensively, yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, it seems like everything's good. We just need to get Jimmy Howard in the lineup, basically. Like, Brust was the reason we lost that last game. No questions asked. Because giving up 2 goals in the final minute, you don't do that, especially in a game where you could close out the series. So now we have to head to Dallas and try and win on the road to close out the series, or else we're going to Game 7 back on home ice. As Detroit is going to the next round, Pittsburgh's on the brink of elimination, so we might not get a realistic cup result if we do somehow lose this first round matchup. But I'm hoping, obviously, that this team just had a little bit of a hiccup and we could get a good response in Game 6. So can we close out the series in Dallas? We are currently 1-1 in Dallas so far in the series. Or are we going to go back to a Game 7 on home ice where I feel like we're going to get cheesed because of a late comeback in that Game 5? Come on, guys. Game 6. Let's get a win on the road if we can. First period. 3-1 us. Okay, well, do not blow this 3-1 lead. We had a 3-1 lead last game. We know they could come back, so we got to keep it respectable here. Bork makes it 1-0. Nagy makes it 2-0. Spezza makes it 3-0. And then Zach Parise scores for them. All 4 of those goals were in the final 7 minutes of that first period. Pretty crazy. We had 18 shots in the first period, so our team was completely pissed off how they played in that last little bit of last game. So they came out flying. That's exactly what you want to see from this team. Hopefully we find a way to maintain that going into the second period and we don't just fall apart in period 2. Second period. Still 3-1. That's a great spot to be in. I would prefer that than giving up a goal against. So shots 26-20 in favor of us. We're up by a pair of goals. Can we close it out in this third period and get ourselves to the second round? Come on, boys. Just lock it down this time. You got it. I believe in you. Don't want to do what we did last game for sure. Sorry if you hear a lawnmower. It's really annoying. These people just do lawnmower stuff always when I have to record for some reason. Final few minutes. Still up by a pair of goals. And I feel like I'm going to sneeze, which is really annoying. And we are going to lock it down this time. We have learned from our mistakes. And we close out the series in 6 games. And we will be heading to the second round after a little bit of a scare in Game 5, I would say. Final shots 36-27 in favor of us. We get a nice 3-1 win. Jimmy Howard with another great performance. So I think Jimmy Howard has to be our guy going forward into round 2. So Bork second to the playoffs from Comrie. Nagy's 4th from Hartnell and Legwand. And yet Spezza from Merida. And Jimmy Howard also picks up an assist in this first round. So have you guys ever seen a playoff series where both goalies get on the score sheet? Because that's the first time I feel like I've seen both of my goalies ever do that. Jimmy Howard the first star to game, Nagy the second star, and Rene Bork the third star. So I think we have to keep Pavelski scratched for a little bit. Maybe we could get him back in sometime next round as Ryan Suter's been injured with a mild concussion. That's a substantial defensive blow. Wow. Let's just go replace player for the time being here. But that's a pretty big blow to our defensive core, especially in front of a young goaltender like Jimmy Howard. So who is it going to put in? That's going to put Brooks Orpik into the lineup, which gives us a little bit more physicality, but pretty much it. Yeah, I guess we could probably... Actually, maybe I put Orpik with Jacques. Yeah. Seabrook has been pretty good so far, so we'll get him a little bit more ice time. And yeah, Jimmy Howard will definitely be starting next round for sure as well. Okay, let's take a look at our player stats after the first round of the playoffs. And then we will obviously see who we're playing in round numero dos. I don't know why I said that, but still. First and foremost, our team stats after round 1. Let's take a look at how we did. We're only one of 2 teams in the Central Division that's made the playoffs. We were scoring 4.83 goals for per game. We were giving up 2.83, so scoring 2 more goals than giving up. That's pretty solid. Power play percentage, not so great in the first round, 11.1%, so hopefully that finds itself. And then our penalty kill, 89.5%, so the PK was fantastic. We scored 2 short-handed goals as well in that first round. Nice. All right. Let's take a look at those player stats, because I feel like it was a pretty good team effort from the offensive standpoint. So Spets on 8 points was great. Leg one on 7 points was great. Comrie even had 6 assists, which was kind of surprising because his offense dropped off this season compared to last year. But he was really good in that first round in terms of offense, and his defense wasn't bad either. Lacosta 4 assists is also very good. And then Pavelski. Yeah, Pavelski's a complete outlier out of those centers. Played only 4 games, but -6 and no points. Yeah, Joe, you got to be better than that, bro. Left wingers, Nagy had 11 points in that first round. He was really, really good. And then you had Hartnell on 7 points, Marita on 7 points. Both of them were great plus minuses. And Rene Bourque even was good in that first round with 4 points. Kopecky was -1 through 2 games. Also had a fight, which is interesting. Right wing side of things, Hayden Van Allen had 5 points. He was good. Artmeyer had 5 points. He was good as well. And then Parker Winnick didn't have anything. So from an offensive standpoint, obviously, I was very displeased with Pavelski, but Parker Winnick also was kind of bad. Being a -2 isn't terrible compared to a -6, but I'm hoping more from Parker Winnick in terms of the offense if he can going forward. But in general, I would say the depth scoring was fantastic on this team. From a defensive standpoint, Seabrook 4 points in that first round was good, +7. Yeah, Corzini on 3 points, all that in one game, +2. Suter 3 points, +5 before he got injured, which is unfortunate. Schock 2 points, +7. And Shea Weber 2 points, +6. And then Trevor Daley had 1 goal, but was -1. So he was our only minus defenseman in that first round. And then goaltending-wise, Jimmy Howard had a 947 through 2 games. So he's definitely our guy going forward. Bruss had an 882. So yeah, Jimmy Howard is the man for this playoff run for sure. So there's our player stats. The question now is, who are we playing in round number 2? Did Pittsburgh get eliminated? They did. So unfortunately, Pittsburgh will not go to a Cup Finals in 07-08, but there is a chance Detroit still can. But obviously, we're hoping that we can instead of one of those actual teams. So what is round number 2 looking like in this playoff run of 07-08? It's going to be us and the Calgary Flames in round 2. Interesting. I don't know who would be on the roster at this stage. Probably still a Gimlet, I would assume. But aside from that, I honestly have no idea. So you have us in Calgary, Detroit, and Edmonton in the second round. In terms of the East, you have Carolina, Philadelphia, Florida, and Tampa. All right. Florida, of course, still going for more Stanley Cups because they've been so great in the series. So Florida is definitely, I would say, the favorite in this playoff run at this point in time. All right. So the question is now, how did the Flames' first round go by comparison to us? And then we'll take a look at their roster. So if we go to Western Conference, sort this by wins here. So we won in 6 games. They won in 6 games as well. They scored 3.5 goals per game. They gave up 3.5. That's a little bit scary that they gave up as much goals as they scored, because that means they could be just all of a sudden really good in the next round. I've seen that happen before. Their power play was 30%. So their power play was fantastic. Meanwhile, our penalty kill was really good. Their penalty kill wasn't so much. So we got to contain their power play is a number one thing for us. They were perfect on the road, but they were not great on home ice. Okay. So the question is, what is in Calgary in 07-08? Obviously, they're not going to look anywhere similar to the actual team from 07-08, but we'll be interested to see what names are there since the beginning of this franchise mode. So, Calgary, Blake Jenner, I believe he was like he was a high up pick just last season. So, Calgary hasn't been necessarily, actually, this is his first NHL season. Okay. So, yeah, Calgary is just all of a sudden getting into the mix in the playoffs, it seems like again. Mark Savard's still there. So, Mark Savard having a long time career in Calgary this time around. And Jerome McGinley, of course, at 30 years old. Let me take a look at his stats here. Yeah, they've only been in the playoffs 4 times, which is not terrible. The furthest they got was back in 25-26, which would have been equivalent to, I guess, was that 03-04? Actually, wait, no, it did start in 1999-2000, so that'd be like 01? or 02, something like that. But I don't remember if Calgary won a Stanley Cup in the series or not. I feel like they got to the finals and lost, but shout out to Jerome McGinley. Second line has Brent Burns. Oh my god, I forgot Brent Burns. I made him as a forward in this because he actually was drafted as a forward. So Brent Burns on the second line with Thomas Mechanics and some guy named Khalil McCarthy. Yeah, this is a pretty young top six, other than Mark Savard and Iginla. Wow. That's a really interesting second line. Third line, Sean Bergenheim, a guy named Nikolai Leeson, and Justin Williams. Oh no, they have Mr. Game 7. Gotta watch out for Justin Williams. I hope that he's not that good in Game 7s in this. Who knows? Fourth line, Brad Richardson, Marcel Gotch, and Drew Miller. Yeah, this is an interesting team. When you think about it, a lot of these guys actually had some solid playoff careers, like Justin Williams won some cups with LA. Sean Bergenheim, I believe, was on Tampa that got eliminated in the conference finals in 2010, I'd like to say. Or not 2010, 2011, when Tampa lost to the Boston Bruins. Drew Miller would have been on a rookie with the Ducks when they won the cup in 07. Brad Richardson would have been on the Kings team that won some cups, I think. Yeah, they have definitely some championship pedigree. And then obviously Mark Savard won a cup technically in 2010, but I believe, or not 2010, 2011, but I don't think he got his name on the Stanley Cup because of his injuries. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that's a really solid forward group for the most part. Defensively, Duncan Keith. I didn't realize Duncan Keith was a Calgary Flame. Obviously, Duncan Keith won a lot of cups in his career too. Drafted by the Rangers, but is already in Calgary. So he got dealt early into his career. That's kind of surprising. I don't remember what the trade was. I remember Calgary and the Rangers making a trade with Christian Huselius, but I don't remember if Duncan Keith was involved in that one. Johnny Boychuk is also there, so another guy that's won Stanley Cups, or won one Stanley Cup. He went, obviously, to the Cup Finals in 2011, too. So a lot of old Bruins kind of guys here. Matt Gilroy is there, Ozzy Vananen, this guy named Igor Markov, and Darren Van Impe. So the defensive core is kind of a mid, to be honest. But seeing Johnny Boychuk there and Duncan Keith is pretty cool. Goaltending-wise, they have Mike Dunham. Of course they have Mike Dunham, our former goaltender, I believe. Yes, he was our goalie in year number 1. We ended up moving on from him, and since then he has been all over the place. He was more the backup goalie, it looks like, in Calgary, but so far he's been kind of the number 1 guy in the playoffs, which is interesting, so they might have an injury. But shout out to Mike Dunham, and their backup is Pat Pittis, who's a generated guy, of course. Alright. So they definitely have a goaltending injury, I think, which I don't know who their number 1 is. It's Mike Smith. Oh yeah, that's right. Mike Smith got dealt to the Calgary in this too. So shout out to Mike Smith, who got dealt from San Jose. We played him a number of years ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's been pretty good in his playoff career. He actually just recently got injured too. He played the first 2 games of the playoffs and then got injured. And then they also have Sean Avery as a scratch, which I'm glad he's a scratch because I don't need him standing in front of my goalie waving a stick. They also have Ahmad Platt, and Patrick O'Sullivan is there as well. Interesting team. I definitely think they have some really good stud players like Burns and Iginla, Mechanics and Savard, Jenner, and also Justin Williams being a third-line guy. They definitely have the skill level to be a really good team. Duncan Keith there too, so it is going to be a tough matchup, but I think we might have a little bit of offensive depth compared to them. Defensive depth, I think we have them on. Goaltending, I would say, is kind of mixed bag because you honestly don't know how goalies are going to assimilate, but I think this is going to be probably a close matchup. They were technically below 500 in the regular season, so that has me a little scared too. 37, 38, 4-3. Were they like the 8th seed or what? I got to take a look at that in the regular season. Were they the 8th seed? Yes, they were. So they knocked out who in the first round? Did they upset like one of the big teams in the first round, the San Jose Sharks, or what? Did they play San Jose in round 1? Yes, they did. They took out the number 1 seed. We got to be very wary about them. They could be the cheese. They could be the cheese. Because for them to knock out a number 1 seeded team like that in San Jose, yeah, they definitely found a way to be the cheese team in that series, because San Jose might have been the best team in the entire NHL, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they were. So they knocked out the President's Trophy winners in 6 games. So, yeah, we got to be definitely weary about that. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the second round against the Calgary Flames. That episode will be going up on the Monday. If we get to the conference finals and beyond that, I'll probably do the rest of the playoffs on Tuesday, so the day literally afterwards, just because the Winnipeg series is ending already. So there might be a back-to-back days where this series is on just before we get into NHL 25 content. So anything down below, and I'll see you guys next time.